"Daddy, please help her." A single dad stopped two men. The next day, a CEO found him. Marcus Webb had never considered himself a hero. He was just a tired, overworked single father who drove a beat-up 2009 Honda Civic, worked double shifts at a warehouse, and spent every free moment raising his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. Life had not been easy since his wife passed away 3 years ago. But Marcus kept moving forward because Lily needed him to. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also tell us in the comments where in the world are you watching from. Every morning she would hug him tight before school and whisper, "You're my superhero, Daddy." And that single sentence gave him the strength to face another exhausting day. It was a bright Saturday afternoon in November, the kind of day where the golden sunlight fell softly across the city streets and families were out enjoying the weekend. Marcus had promised Lily a special treat, lunch at a small restaurant called the Yellow Spoon, a tiny, cozy place tucked between a laundry shop and a bookstore on 5th Street. It had red-checkered tablecloths, handwritten menus, and the best grilled cheese sandwiches Lily had ever tasted in her 8 years of life. They arrived just after 1 in the afternoon, found a small table near the window and ordered their food. Lily was drawing on a napkin with the crayons the waiter had brought, humming happily to herself, while Marcus sipped his coffee and let himself relax for the first time all week. The restaurant was not very crowded, just a few other families, an old couple in the corner, and a young woman sitting alone at a table near the back, scrolling through her phone while waiting for her order. Everything was peaceful and warm and ordinary, and Marcus was just beginning to feel like a normal person again, when he noticed something that made him go very still. 2 large men had walked into the restaurant about 10 minutes after Marcus and Lily arrived. They had not taken a table. They had not looked at the menu. Instead, they had walked straight toward the young woman sitting alone at the back and positioned themselves on either side of her, boxing her in against the wall. Marcus watched carefully. At first, he thought they might be friends or co-workers, but within seconds, he could see the woman's body language change completely. Her shoulders tensed. Her eyes dropped to the table. Her hand gripped her phone so tightly, her knuckles turned white. One of the men leaned down close to her ear and said something in a low voice. The other man placed his large hand firmly on top of her bag, which was sitting on the table beside her plate. She shook her head slightly, almost imperceptibly, and Marcus could see her lips trembling. Nobody else in the restaurant seemed to notice. The waiter was busy in the kitchen. The old couple in the corner were lost in their own quiet conversation. Marcus felt his chest tighten. He looked at Lily, who was still drawing, completely unaware. He looked back at the 2 men, and the terrified young woman pressed against the wall like a cornered animal in the middle of a perfectly ordinary Saturday afternoon. His body moved before he made a conscious decision. He stood up from his chair, straightened to his full height, and walked calmly but deliberately toward the back of the restaurant. His footsteps were steady. His face was calm, but his heart was hammering so loudly he was certain everyone in the room could hear it. He stopped right beside the table, pulled out his phone and pressed record. Then he spoke in a loud, clear, firm voice that cut through the entire restaurant like a knife through silence. "Hey, I've been recording you both for the past 2 minutes, and this video is already saved on my cloud account. I've also just sent a message to the police with your descriptions and this restaurant's address. I suggest you step away from her right now." Every head in the restaurant turned. The waiter came rushing out from the kitchen. The old couple looked up. 2 other men at a nearby table stood from their chairs. The 2 men who had been cornering the young woman looked at Marcus, then around the room at all the eyes now fixed on them, then back at Marcus. The atmosphere in the small restaurant had shifted entirely. What had been a quiet, private act of intimidation had suddenly become very public and very witnessed. One of the men straightened up slowly and said with a forced smirk, "We were just talking." Marcus did not blink. "Then you won't mind talking to the police instead." The second man grabbed his companion's arm, and without another word, both of them turned and walked out of the restaurant quickly. the little bell above the door jangling behind them as they left. The room exhaled. The young woman sat frozen for a moment, and then her composure broke completely. She pressed both hands over her face and began to cry with the quiet, shaking kind of crying that comes from a fear that has nowhere left to go. Marcus sat down across from her gently. "It's okay. They're gone. You're safe." Lily had climbed down from her chair and patted over softly. Without saying a word, she reached out her small hand and placed it on top of the young woman's hand on the table. The woman looked down at those tiny fingers and cried harder. "Don't be scared," Lily said quietly. "My daddy makes the bad people go away." The young woman's name was Priya Sharma. She was a software engineer who had just moved to the city 2 weeks ago. She told Marcus that those men had been following her since the morning, that they had been demanding money she did not owe them, and that she had stepped into the yellow spoon, hoping the crowd would protect her. Marcus stayed with her, helped her file a police report, and made sure she was safely in a cab before he and Lily finished their lunch. Now cold, but neither of them minded. He did not post about it. He did not tell his co-workers. It was simply something that needed to be done on a Saturday afternoon in a small restaurant. And so he had done it. What Marcus did not know was that Priya had called her father that same evening, still shaking, and told him everything about the two men, about the quiet restaurant, about the tired-looking man who had stood up when no one else did, and about the little girl who had held her hand. Her father, David Sharma, was the founder and CEO of TechBridge Solutions, a major technology firm in the city. He was a man who had built his entire company on one principle: character is everything. The next morning, David Sharma arrived at the warehouse where Marcus worked and asked to speak with him. Marcus came out in his work gloves, completely baffled, and found a well-dressed man standing in the parking lot who looked at him with the kind of quiet gratitude that cannot be performed or faked. David told him who he was, thanked him for what he had done, and then told him he had looked into his background. He knew about the engineering diploma, the warehouse shifts, the years of sacrifice, and the little girl being raised alone. Right there in the parking lot under the Monday morning sky, David Sharma offered Marcus a full-time position at TechBridge Solutions, the operations coordinator, full benefits and a salary that would change everything. Marcus stood very still. His eyes grew wet. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. David Sharma smiled and said, "Because a little girl told my daughter that her daddy makes the bad people go away. I want a man like that on my team." Marcus started his new job the following week. On his first morning, Lily buttoned his collar carefully, smoothed his shirt with her small palms, and hugged him so tight he had to remind himself to breathe. "You're still my superhero, Daddy," she whispered. And standing in their small apartment in the early morning light, Marcus Webb finally truly believed it. If this story warmed your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to our channel Kindness True Stories, where we bring you powerful, moving stories of real courage, everyday kindness, and the unsung heroes who make this world a better place. Your support keeps these stories alive and helps us inspire millions more. Thank you for being part of our family.